Yeah. This is according to the International Energy Agency, that is from the Renewable 2019 report, which found that solar, wind, and hydropower projects are rolling out at their fastest rate in 4 years. So today we have our wonderful speaker here to share about her experiences and her work in renewable energy. And she is going to talk about the transition and trends for renewable energy technologies in an island context. Cynthia Alexander is an alumnus of Annamala University with a bachelor's degree in chemical engineering and a master's in energy engineering from AVC College of Engineering. And she works as a principal officer for renewable energy and energy management unit at the Seychelles Energy Commission. The Seychelles Energy Commission is mandated to regulate the electricity sector as well as implement the energy policies and strategies, including the promotion of renewable energy and energy efficiency. Cynthia works on development and implementation of different renewable energy and energy efficiency projects, including the 4 megawatt floating PV project, energy efficiency program for the public sector. Additionally, she is active in education and awareness on renewable energy, energy efficiency, and sustainable development. As Principal Officer for Renewable Energy and Energy Management, she has also worked on numerous renewable energy and energy efficiency programs supported under regional and bilateral cooperations for the Seychelles. And now here I welcome Cynthia Alexander to take over the session. Volume, you need to turn on your mic.
I'm muted. Sorry. Good evening, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here, and thank you, Akka, for such a beautiful introduction of me. It's a pleasure to be with you this evening, and this is my first webinar experience, and I'm glad I have all the audience like you. Before I start, as Akka was explaining, you know my background, and I would like to know about your background also. But before that, I'm just going to share my screen where you will see my presentation as well. You can all comment on the box depending on what kind of background you're coming from. Are you in the academic part, or are you in the industry? Things like that, please. And this evening, I am going to talk about transition and trends for renewable energy technologies in an island context, because I work in an island.
You also tell about your island, where it is located, Seychelles.
I have a part of it in my presentation also.
Oh, okay.
I will go, we are doing it. Thank you.
Be interested to know.
So now you know who am I, and I would be happy to know who you are. As I was telling, please comment on your box so that I know what background you're from, so that I will be able to explain, because I have no academic experience except studying for the exams. But I would like to share my point of view from the work that I am doing as working as the Principal Officer for Renewable Energy and Energy Management in a country like Seychelles. So the topic says transition. But sorry, before I start, I just want to remind one more point. I want the session to be as interactive as possible. So I don't have anything that I have to completely explain, so that you can ask your questions or doubts only at the end of the program. Feel free to raise your hand, so I will stop wherever I am, and we will discuss what the issue comes to your mind, and then we will move on. I will try to explain as much as possible as I know, because as you can see, I am from the policy implementation side rather than physically present in the project-oriented side. But I would like this session to be interactive and give and take. So I would like to take points from you, learn from you also. Thank you. And what is a transition, and why are we talking about it? Why do we have such a session, and why we have to have a webinar on this, and what is the purpose of learning from this webinar? A transition is something when you are used to one way, and then after some time you want to move to a different way, but you don't know how to adopt yourself, how to use some new things that you have to adopt to move from one particular behavior to another one. And this transition is very important in the energy sector because the energy behavior has been changing since the days of industrial revolutions also. Like for instance, we know it used to be renewable sources like biomass and muscle power that has been used by the people from ancient times, from 16th, 17th century to run industries. And then from the 19th century, coal came into action, and then coal surpassed the muscle energy that we have been using, or the biomass. But it surpassed it, but it didn't stop from using them. And then fossil fuels like petroleum products took over coal and started to be changing the infrastructure for energy. As Usha Akka was rightly mentioning, electricity is cross-cutting. Electricity generation is very important irrespective of which sector we are working from, be it residential sector, be it industries, we all need energy and electricity. So what happened in the past, if we had seen, there was no transition from one technology to another technology, but instead there was addition of technologies. We didn't stop coal, but we just added petroleum products to it. And then petroleum products have different, like petrol, diesel, kerosene, gas oil, fuels, and different types, but still we kept adding to it, and we try to improve our energy infrastructure and try to reach our demands. But why is energy transition? So it has been happening by itself all this while. So why it is so important that we have to discuss it now? Because we are introducing renewable energy to it. And what made us to introduce this renewable energy into the transition pattern of energy sector is the question that we have to ask ourselves. What is the most important lesson that we have learned from this COVID situation? Before we start this webinar, we were talking about how technology is connecting people, even though it is stopping us from meeting each other, traveling, and do other stuff. Sustainability is the only answer. We have to come up with a solution of sustainability that we will be able to address any issue that arises, be it in any sector, especially more importantly in the energy sector. So why we have to be sustainable? The sustainability comes because we have to meet our needs in the present without compromising the ability for future generations to meet their needs. This is what is happening in the energy sector, where we have been using fossil fuels for a very, very long time, but we know it is depleting. We have come to a point where we know in the next 50 to 70 years, there might not be enough fossil fuel for the future generation to come. But who are the future generation? This is decided by the population that is increasing. We know from 1 billion to 7 billion, we just reached there in like a few years, right? From like within the last 50 to 60 years, we have seen a huge transition of population increase. What does population increase means? Population increase means the demand for everyone to have access to energy is increasing. And do we have enough resources to provide that energy for that increasing demand? This is where we started to think, oh my God, what we are doing? What should we do to make sure these resources are sustainably available? And since we know certain resources deplete in nature, we started to look for renewable energy. This was one side of the story. What happened on the other side was, apart from overpopulation, there were issues like climate change. What is climate change? The pattern of climate that the earth has been experiencing has started changing, and the temperature of earth has started to rise. And why does it started to rise? It started to rise because of the things that we started to do, including industrialization, green revolution, technological improvement. Everything has contributed for climate change. So now we have two major reasons to work on sustainability. We know our existing resources of fossil fuels is decreasing. We know climate change is happening and we have to address it, and we have to reduce the pollution and emissions that is happening that causes the climate change. So what can we do to do that? And when we are doing it, what are the things that we have to keep in mind? It plays a very important role here. There has to be an economical aspect of what we are trying to change. What we did earlier. Instead of coal, we started introducing more um, different type of fossil fuels, petroleum and diesel and other stuff. Now we are having natural gas, which is much cleaner version of it. Yes, we all need them. We all need them. But what is their impact on environment is one question that we have to answer when we are trying to add different resources. Apart from economical and environmental, there was this social impact. We have to know, like if we translate these three words, economical, environmental, and social, into layman terms, it's all about money, it's all about people, and it's all about profit, right? So this is very important for all of us to live. We cannot say we are so empathetical that we don't need money to live. We all need money to live. We cannot say just because I have to live, it's okay to do some deforestation. It's okay to have a plant that produces electricity for me, but still emits carbon. So these are things that we have to sit down and talk, not us, but the people who takes the decision. And then it makes it important that apart from economical, environmental, and social, we need a political aspect of all this problem. So this is how the transition has played a very, very important role. There are scientists who are not happy to use the word transition when it comes to renewable energy. This is for the reason because they want to really stop generation from fuels that impact the earth, that creates issues to the people, and move completely from one type of technology and move to a new type of technology, which is renewable energy. The climate change issues can be addressed in two ways, which are adaptation and mitigation. I hope you would be aware. But as I said before, please make sure you can comment anytime or raise your hand in case you do not understand what I'm telling or you want to stop and ask a questions, okay? So there are adaptation and mitigation measures, and adaptation mostly orients on the environmental aspect of addressing the climate change, and mitigation works on reducing the carbon emissions that we have been used to send to the environment. So sustainability is fine, but then comes the very important aspect, which is called self-sustainability. That means when we are sustainable, we have solutions for our problem. But when we are self-sustainable, the solutions comes from us. We don't have to rely on somebody else to take it. For example, I can take the corona situation. We used to rely on housemaids for all our work. The women in the houses, they used to rely so much on the housemaids. But what happened when we had the lockdown period, suddenly none of them can walk out or go and do the work. And we were scared of letting people from outside also, which means you have to start doing your work that you are not doing for a long time. And additionally, there were additional pressures that you were used that added up, that you have to cook more, work more, and do your work that you used to do every day also. So the same situation applies to every country that needs energy. If it is a country like Seychelles, which relies completely on fossil fuels, the importation of fossil fuels decide the electricity access of country like Seychelles. This is very important thing that has to be addressed. And also we have to think about how we are generating and how we are transporting the electricity that is made. So self-sustainability is one important word that we have to remember when we are planning our transition for the electricity sector. Okay, I'm just checking in case I have missed the point. Okay, right. And then what is another important thing is, do we have enough infrastructure, economical background, environmental aspect to provide this self-sustainability to ourselves? Sometimes people, especially when you talk about renewable energy, the first thing people will say, okay, if we can produce electrical energy from renewable sources of power, let's stop all the power plants on the whole world and let's go renewable overnight. Let's start it today. Then comes the important question, who will fund for it? Where they will build our infrastructure? Because we cannot go to an existing power plant and change everything into solar panels. So there are different things that we have to address before we move to the stage where the technology is completely changed. This is where transition plays a very, very important role. Okay. Energy transition, as I was telling you before, has been happening since Industrial Revolution, like coal overcome petroleum, renewable products like biomass in the beginning, and then we moved from coal to petroleum products, and then petroleum products now has LNGs, and now we want to put renewable sources of power into the grid. And we are very sure, because of what I have been explaining, climate change, demand rise, everything, energy transformation mitigates climate change, increases the energy access of people, and meets the global sustainable development goals. I hope you all have heard about the sustainable goals, the 17 sustainable goals made by United Nations. Why do we have these sustainable goals? This is the only way we can make sure all the people of the earth, the global citizens, irrespective of whether they are rich, they are poor, they are from a European country or from an African country, can have a good standard of living, basic standard of living. These different goals emphasize on reducing poverty, reducing hunger, having access to good health, having access to good basic education, having access to clean, affordable energy. And the thing is, even though energy is only one goal, it cross-cuts all the other goals, all the other 16 goals, because without energy, you will not be provided anything at all. There are rural regions and urban regions. How are we going to address the needs of people who do not have the same infrastructure as the urban cities? So everything has to meet at one place, and that is where we are trying to transit our energy access. Okay, 1/3 of the energy, the whole world's energy comes from coal, and yet we know the fossil fuels are depleting. And we know during the past 10 years, since 2010 to 2020, if we take the data available, we can see there has been prominent increase in solar power and wind power all over the world. I will talk about solar power and wind power in my next slide later. But before we move on to there, I want to emphasize on the global energy industry experienced significant transformation over the 2010, like the last 10 years, as effort to address climate change have prompted new trends in the transition away from fossil fuel reliance. The thing is, now we are not adding a new technology or a new resource for our energy needs. We are really transitioning from moving away from fossil fuel and go into a new technology. Intensifying the focus of challenges posed by climate change and accelerated need for energy transition has increased the growth of renewables and decline of fossil fuels, and also have been trying to develop energy storage technologies and carbon capture technologies also. So, you know, the thing is, what we have is, there are knowledge everywhere. All academic institutions are doing lots of research. There are research and development departments of big companies that are having lots of knowledge. It is the experience that we go through the knowledge that makes us to be more creative. That's very, very important. And as a faculty development programs webinar, I want to emphasize more on this. It is so easy to teach a technology and get marks from it. But are we learning from it? Are we trying to build an engineer or a citizen who can bring a better innovative solution for what is already existing? Is all about faculty development. The people who are having an academic background are very, very important, because they play the key roles in doing this transition. You never know how many of your students will become a lecturer in the future, but we definitely know they all are going to be in the sector, which means we have to be very, very careful about what we are transferring to them. So we have to let the students to be more creative in the knowledge and experience they gain from learning. And it is very important to be aware of what is worth of our energy, both physically and mentally. Transition trend. Okay, so I have been talking about transition all this time. Now I want to talk about the trends in renewable energy. So we know renewable energy is a natural resource that is available, that can be renewed all the time, that doesn't get depleted over time. Then the first one we all know is solar power. Solar power has two applications, where they have thermal applications as well as they have electrical applications. We know solar water heating systems, concentrated solar power that uses heat to get what we need, while the photovoltaic systems are used to generate electricity. What are the trends in these solar technologies? Nowadays, we are very much working high-fi on hybrid systems. This is for the reason because solar energy is intermittent in nature. I'm sorry. It is intermittent in nature, which means you cannot decide when you want to use solar. You have to use solar when solar is available. That's very, very important. And when a resource is intermittent, it definitely doesn't provide us easy base load options, which means like I switch it, like for example, what happens now, we switch on our light comes on. We switch on our fan and the fan comes on. But it doesn't work that way when it is a solar power. So we have to have the technology developed to have an inverter which has a system that can convert and store in a battery so that we can use it as we want it. So this intermittency nature makes solar, gives solar a big disadvantage. Then in order to address the disadvantage, we go for hybrid systems. Hybrid systems is using less, using a balanced system of different sources of power for one system, one power system, one power plant. We can have solar and we can use solar as much as we get, but during the night times or when there is less solar power that is available, these hybrid systems can be attached with a battery system or a diesel power generator or even a wind turbine or a different mixture of resources. This is what hybrid systems are about, and this is applicable to any type of renewable source of energy. If you see the trend in the last 15 years, the price of solar panels and the batteries have dropped really 50% less, which means the technology is improving and affordability of such systems is improving for the people. There are tracking technologies to make sure our panels track the sun's path so that the best orientation is placed so that we can get maximum efficiency of the panels. And efficiency is a factor that always goes to the disadvantage side of the panels. This is because solar energy cannot convert 100% of light that falls on it into electrical energy. But the same applies to fossil fuels also. I hope you all know that a power plant has like 34 to 40% of efficiency only. Also, they emit carbon dioxide gases to the environment, which is harmful. While in the case of solar, it is not happening. But we also know that the research and development part are playing a very important role in increasing the efficiency of different panels. And now we also have bifacial panels, which are new trends in technology, where the backside of a solar panel is also generating electricity, but not as much as the upper part, which is facing the sun. This is by taking the diffused radiation and reflected radiations, and they are able to add to the efficiency of the panels. And nowadays we have integration with building panels, that the panels can be used in the form of paints, in the form of windows, that they can be integrated so that the aesthetic of a building is not affected at all. And then comes wind power. We all know wind is everywhere. Recent innovations have been happening only on onshore wind turbines, but we have seen in the last 2 or 3 years, there has been decrease in the onshore wind intaking. This is because of the fact not enough space is available, safety issues, and it has to be in a place where the wind resource is high. But at the same time, researchers have made it possible that offshore wind turbines provide much better solutions, much better efficiency compared to onshore wind. And offshore wind can be used in the middle of oceans where it is not disturbing much of the people's activities compared to the land one. The design has been improved, the technology has been improved, and efficiency has been improving. There are different turbine technologies where there are there are wind vanes not using blades, not being used in designing a wind turbine. And they can be used on a tailor-made basis depending on the wind resources that is available in the geographical location of the country which wants to produce. There are even micro turbine studies that has been ongoing to see if we can have each house to be able to generate their own electricity using wind power. Then comes hydro. Hydro is a renewable source of power that has been well established in our technology. It has been there for a very, very long time, and it has very, very well established infrastructure to develop energy. It is so easy to develop a power plant using hydro energy because you just use the flow of the river, flow of the water to run a turbine to generate electricity. And there are options whether to build a dam or not to build a dam, but just use a penstock. But the very recent trend in using hydro energy comes from pumped hydro storage, where this can be used as an alternate solution for batteries that we would need for solar or wind generation. This type of battery support or pumped hydro can help stabilization of the grid because of the intermittent nature of wind or solar. And then we move on to the other technology, which is the other source of renewable energy, which is biomass. Biomass, as I said, even before the during the Industrial Revolution, it was biomass we have been using. We all are aware of our grandparents where they used to just go get woods and cook our food, make hot water and everything using the available biomass. There are different types of biomass sources which are agricultural sources, forestry sources, animals from wood, or even municipal solid waste. And this municipal solid waste is very important in the case of biomass because they form a solution for waste management. So waste to energy is a very upcoming renewable energy technology, which once well established can provide base load similar to a hydro project, which means once the system is built and the power plant is there, the system can keep giving the amount of energy it generates all the time. There are different technologies that can be used to convert biomass into a useful energy, which can be either heat or electricity, which is controlled combustion, fermentation, pyrolysis, gasification, and all. And then comes wave energy, marine energy. Like we can say there are different type of resources from marine environment, which includes of waves, tidal, the salinity, the temperature difference of how depth is the ocean. Everything provides a very good option to go for more renewable sources. In a country like Seychelles, what happens is we are surrounded by sea, and we have an exclusive economic zone of a vast region that we can try so many things, but we won't be able to try because of one reason being funding, and the second reason being not having the infrastructure to address an issue if it arises. Let's say a program we try in an island like Seychelles fails. And when it fails, we will not be able to... Anybody asking me a question? Hello?
No, carry on.
Okay, I think it's just unmuted. Okay, so it is very important to have the ability by a research and development team to address failures when it happens, especially in the research and development stage. And there has been seawater cooling of using absorption studies. There has been lots of studies ongoing, but we are yet to see the well implemented version of marine technologies in the future. And the last one comes as geothermal power. Geothermal, unfortunately, have a geothermal source of energy, and I don't work on it much. But modern use of geothermal is mainly applicable on electricity generation and also heat. It also helps in heating, ventilation, and air conditioning systems in the regions where there are cold temperatures to provide heat. Before we move on to the case of Seychelles, I just want to emphasize on something very much important. How many of you like cornetto ice cream? Have you eaten cornetto ice cream? Can you just say, raise your hands? Or so far, I have not seen anyone raising their hands or do anything. So we all love cornetto ice cream, right? How many of you have this habit of, okay, now I see the chat. Sorry. Have this habit of taking the paper that covers the ice cream and lick it before you throw it out. Do you do that? I hope everybody has done it. And why do we do that? Have you ever thought about what was the purpose of doing that? When we have an ice cream, before we throw it, we just lick the little bit of ice cream that has been stuck to the paper before we throw it. This is because we don't want to waste the good taste of the ice cream. We have paid for it, we got it, and we don't want it to be wasted, right? The same applies for electricity. No matter, just because you're having a renewable source of power doesn't mean you have to misuse the electricity that you have generated. So there comes the term energy efficiency before we move on to renewable source of energy. What is energy efficiency? It is using the energy for the same amount, it is using the energy, less energy for the same amount of work. And the best, easiest example is LED technology. We all know the incandescent bulb that we used to use for a long time. And then CFL took over the incandescent technology. We know that incandescent technology uses 5% of its electricity to convert into light, and the remaining 95% was released as heat. And then CFL took over. But when CFL took over, what happened? We all will change our room and living rooms and other places to a CFL, but the bathrooms and the backyard will always have this incandescent, because it never, it works for a long time. Irrespective of the fact that we have been paying a lot of utility bills, we have been using that. So when LED technology took over, it addressed the issue of heat, it addressed the issue of environmental issues, because CFLs contains mercury, which is a harmful toxic chemical that should not be sent into the environment. And definitely there will be a much better technology that will come. People might be working on it right now as we are speaking. So being efficient means use technology. It is not about saying close all the power plants, let's go to chimney times, put kerosene or a candle and light up and do our studies. It's not like that. We have to have light, we have to have aircon, we have to have all the comfort, but we have to do it in a regulated way, standardized way, so that we don't waste electricity. And this works very well on all the technologies like air conditioning, cooling, refrigeration. When you build a building, you can introduce energy efficiency measures that can help you make your building more sustainable, make your building more energy efficient. I just want to give one example of this, which is glass. We have seen recent development of all the commercial buildings being using glass everywhere. We want to become like New York. We want to become like England or London, where we go and say, oh, this is very tall, oh, all full glass everywhere. But do we realize that glasses have the capacity to trap the heat inside? And then when you use an aircon inside the room, your aircon has to work double the amount to address the heat that you have brought in using the glass. But there are solutions available for this. It doesn't mean we all have to build a wall and get separated from each other. We should not be able to see outside. We have double glazing, triple glazing technologies that can prevent the amount of heat that enters into a building. So this is about what we know. This is about the knowledge we know, and this is about the knowledge being transferred to a common man where he can use it or she can use it to implement in the solution as a solution for himself or herself. So efficiency, as you can see on my slide, is the intelligent laziness. We all are, right? When there is exam, we wait for the last 2 days or the day before so that we can do a one efficient go through of the exam and present ourselves very well in the exams, right? So the same happens for energy also. So as I told you, the new trends supporting renewable energy or hybrid systems, energy storage, as you can see, the IRENA study has predicted the global energy storage market will experience a 13-fold increase. This is because of integration of more renewable energy into the grid. And there are other technologies like liquid air cryogenic techniques and emphasis on hydrogen being used as a fuel, which lots of research and development has been ongoing, and very soon we are going to see a big change. But when I talk about energy sector, the purpose of energy can be categorized into 4 main categories: electricity generation, cooling, heating. Cooling needs are high in countries like India or Seychelles, where we are tropical and subtropical. But if we are on the other side of the hemisphere, we would need heat as a need, hot water, steam, and others. And the final one is transportation, because these are the 4 major sectors that contributes to carbon emission globally. And before we move on to the Seychelles case, there is this thing called Internet of Energy. We all know about Internet of Things, right? Like things have been made user friendly. Our mobile phone, Android system, everything is the effect of Internet of Things that evolved over the years, past 10, 15 years, 20 years, that has made us made our life so comfortable and convenient. The implementation of this Internet of Things on the energy sector, on the distributed system of energy system, to optimize its efficiency, has brought a very big change to the power sector. And this can be achieved by creating a network of sensors, like you would have already heard of by meters that works on both ways. Like if you're generating electricity, but you're also consuming electricity from your utility, you can have smart meters that measures the consumption and reduces the generation, so that the bill can be generated for what we have consumed only. So Internet of Energy has been playing quite a big role in the sector, and it is SCADA systems and everything are trying to minimize the impact on intermittency that we have spoken before. And due to this type of addressing the issues, we avoid grid fluctuations, and we allow more integration of renewable sources. For example, you can say the washing machine will come on only when it knows there is enough sunlight to provide electricity from the grid. So artificial intelligence plays an important role here. I'm not an expert, but I know all these things are interdisciplinary, and they all will come help a common person to have their life very, very easily, provided they understand the technology. It should not be like smartphones being used by dumb people. It should be the other way around. We should be able to manage them, and so it is very important for us to learn more about it. So it is the UNFCCC. It is the United Nations Framework Convention for Climate Change. And this organization under the United Nations have started accumulating data and started working on making a cooperation among all the countries in the world to try to address the climate change issues that we have been talking before, the demand side management that we have been talking before, the overpopulation that we have been talking before. And when you see it, whether it is globally or on a national level or on a regional level or on a household level, it is very important we know we have an institutional and regulatory framework that supports what we want to do. We cannot randomly pick up, let's say, Seychelles, I have lots of marine resource, let me go and do a marine renewable technology. We cannot do that. We need to do a proper assessment of the resource available and check where we are advantageous and where we are not, and have to address the disadvantage part before we move on to the technology. This is what the transition is all about. And and in order to do that, it is very important to have the institutional and regulatory framework in place so that no power is misused and everybody has a fair, transparent chance to participate in such a transition. And then it needs to have financial incentives. Small countries, developing countries, or underdeveloped countries do not have money to immediately apply to a country to just make infrastructural changes to allow renewable sources of energy. So it has to be properly studied and supported. Capacity building. Do we have the people who have the knowledge and expertise of what we want to try to put in place? This plays another very important role. And finally, education and awareness for the end users. The people who are going to use this technology, who are going to apply this technology in their energy uses, have to know where their energy is coming from, how it has to be handled. These are the things that plays a very important role when we are transitioning and allow different trends of renewable energy to come into action. So I just want to, these are the few last slides where I just want to explain what is Energy Commission, what do I do, and what is the context of Seychelles. So you can see I work at Seychelles Energy Commission, and we have an Energy Act, which is the regulatory framework that allows us to have more renewable energy integration into our grid. We have a vision to have a national energy landscape that is diversified, competitive, and environmental friendly. We have a mission to enable the sustainable, affordable, and accessible electricity by properly regulating the sector. So my department has two major roles. One is they play a role of regulating the electricity sector, and the other part is implementation of the energy policy, where I play an important role in the promotion of renewable energy and energy management in the country. So what you know, Seychelles is a tiny Indian Ocean island where you will sometimes, most of the times, the maps do not put us on their place. But very recently, we have been on the global light, so you will see few dots and the name Seychelles. We have an area of 459 square meter only, and we are located just on top of the equator. Okay, so we are demonime Seychellois, and the language we speak are English, French, and Creole. All the three of them are national languages, and we have a population of about 97,000 only. But we have a small area. But we are an archipelago of 115 islands, and as I told you in the beginning, the island itself is more conserved. If you compare Seychelles to India or China or America, we are a carbon negative country. But still, that doesn't. But as an island, we are more vulnerable to climate change impacts than a country like India or China or America. So it is very important for us to be resilient to the changes and make the market transformations to have renewable energy and energy efficiency coming to the country and get adopted. So I just want to share some basic data about Seychelles. We are part of South African region of the Africa, SADC region, where 341 million with a growing population rate of 2%. And like this is only the South African region. If you take the whole Africa, it is about 1.2 billion, the total population. And SADC region accounts for 33% of sub-Saharan Africans' total population. So out of the total population of Africa, the southern region is included as 33%, and the Seychelles form a tiny, tiny part of it. And as I was explaining before, electricity access is one important thing that SADC organization or any international organization trying to implement on countries like Seychelles. And energy security. Like what will happen if we cannot have access to import a fossil fuel? Because we do not generate any fossil fuel. We do not have natural resources in our country. So what will happen? This is the main reason that the transitioning from a fossil fuel industry to renewable energy technology is happening in Seychelles. The GDP among the SADC members, you can see that the GDP of Seychelles is 1.4 billion USD compared to the highest, which is South Africa, which is 294 billion. At the same time, the next line shows the GDP per capita is very lowest, 317 USD for Malawi, whereas it is very, very high among the Southern African countries in Seychelles, which is equivalent to America's 15,144. This is not because we are all rich. This is because we import electricity and we have 100% access to electricity. So in a way, our political agenda makes sure that all the Seychellois have access to electricity, which is a good thing, unlike African region, where there are countries like Madagascar, where there is 33% of electricity access. There are Comoros Island, which has only 23% of electricity access. So this is very important for countries like Seychelles, who wants to be self-reliant on moving into a self-sustainable source of energy. But we also have the highest human development index among the Southern African countries, which is 0.782. The Seychelles energy policy completely targets energy security and diversibility of energy for Seychelles, and it has a target for renewable energy. We have a target of 5% renewable energy by 2020, and we have a target to achieve 15% penetration by 2030. But meantime, 2 years ago, we also started to have this ambitious target of reaching 100% renewable also, because that's how the market works. When we talk about renewable energy, we all want to go 100%, but we will go there slowly. Definitely, we are exactly at 5% with all the ongoing projects. We will be able to achieve by 2020, but hope Corona doesn't cause any issues. But we are sure that before 2030, we will be post 15% for sure. And then in the middle part of the slide, you can see our power station. PUC is Public Utilities Corporation for Seychelles. And you can see the production is 400, this is a 2019 data, 416.9 gigawatt hours. And the share in total generation is 97.5%, which means imported fossil fuels, heavy fuel oil and light fuel oil contribute for generation of 97.5% of our electricity. Only 2.5% comes from renewable sources of energy for 2019. Solar PV, we have distributed rooftop generation, which have a production of 3.5 gigawatt hours, and the share is 0.8%. And we have a wind farm for 6 megawatt, which produces 7.4 gigawatt hour last year. And the total share of it contributes to 1.7%. And I'm also showing some indicators of what is the electricity generation and the installed capacity of different plants that is in place. The last picture on the middle, in the middle, shows what is the contribution of carbon dioxide emissions from these different sectors. You can see the top two, electricity and transport, which contribute 64% and 28%, where others are contributing very, very less. So it is very important to address a transition on renewable energy for these two sectors. There are different ongoing projects, and one of which is floating solar farm, as was introduced by Ushaka before. This is a first in Africa project where we are trying to do a floating farm utility scale of 4 megawatt in the ocean environment. It will not be on a freshwater or not on a river. We don't have rivers, by the way. And we are going to do it on a IPP basis. IPP basis, which means independent power producer basis. We have a net metering system in place to promote renewable energy, and we have a cap of 50% for commercial customers. And we decide the size of a system due to stability issues and technical issues on the connection to the transformers. These are things that we experience because we are small. On an island context, we will not be, unlike sub-Saharan Africa, we will not be able to connect different islands together so that we can generate more at one point and transfer it to the other island. We will not be able to do that. We have to have different power plants because we are not interconnected. We have to use a air or a sea transport to go to the other islands. So there are other issues like uh, intermittency of renewable sources. As you can see, wind is not a very lovable resource for onshore in Seychelles. But offshore, we are yet to tap it, but onshore, it proved to be not a very good resource of electricity generation. And you can see the load curve that I have shown. You can see there are two peaks. From 8 to 4, there is a peak, and from 6 to 8, there is a peak. 8 to 4 is the official working time of Seychelles, where you will see all air cons are switched on in all the offices and everything. And 6 to 8 is the time where people return home and start to do their work, cooking, washing, and everything. But you know, definitely this renewable source of power will not have a similar curve at all. So it is very important we come up with technologies that that avoids the fluctuations that has to be balanced by the load curve as well as the intermittency of the renewable source. So before I finish, I just want you all to remember what we have been teaching or learning at school, which is energy can neither be created nor be destroyed, but can be wasted. So be aware of the energy vampires and make sure you are more efficient in using your energy, and you are very aware of what kind of energy you're using for your energy needs. I thank you all for your attention, and if you have any questions, please ask me. I will try to answer them. Thank you for listening.
Oh my God, Cynthia, I'm going to get a warning sign in my news channel that there is a tsunami that is affected from Seychelles to India. Oh my God, really wonderful, wonderful presentation with so much of energy. Oh my God, really amazing.
Thank you, Akka.
And I think you will not be sleeping. You will be always in the energy saving mode.
I love to sleep.
Okay. You can stop sharing the screen so that we can see you on the big screen.
Sorry.
Yeah. So the audience can ask your questions. Participants,
yes.
Please. Such a wonderful presentation, and irrespective of whether you're in an electrical department or any other department, energy saving is required for every human. So that awareness is very much required.
Madam, good evening. I'm Shannu Sundaram from Anna University. It was a very nice presentation, and it is the time that we move to energy efficient low power devices, as you have been rightly mentioning with an example of the bulb. And does Seychelles explore the possibility of using the floating wind turbines as they are using it in Norway? Because they have been saying that few gigawatts or megawatts of solar farming and floating wind turbines have been made, and you could see the entire country is using the electric cars. So when we find energy deficient in terms of solar can come up with such a beautiful thing, and you're near to the equator, and it should be a positive thing that you can think about solar farming on the possibly the sea that you have or the sea coast. And the second one, do you have any energy storage devices? Because I have heard about people using the solar energy during the daytime, and they use the phase change materials, and during the night time they try to do it. They use that power being stored to some other thing. I'm not too good in electricity, but I have heard about energy people talking about it. Do you use those kind of things in your Seychelles?
Thank you, Mr. Sundaram. Thanks very much for your questions. To answer your first question, floating wind farm has not been tried yet in Seychelles for two reasons. First of all, the cost of it. And secondly, we do not have the infrastructure of connecting a renewable source from the ocean to the mainland. So we have to work on introducing the infrastructure and the electricity transmission distribution lines before we move on to such a technology. And Seychelles is a country which is relying on tourism sector, and the budget is always very low when it comes to renewable projects, and we rely on international organizations to support us. We are currently working on our first solar farm in Seychelles, which is using a grant from IRENA, and it is going to be a 5 megawatt farm. And Seychelles, as I have told you, like it's tiny dots on the map. Land is very premium in Seychelles. Even though there are people who can come and invest in Seychelles with a big plant of 10 megawatt or 20 megawatt, there is not enough land available. So we are very slow in taking new projects into the country before we consider it for Seychelles. And the floating PV farm that I have been talking about, there has been a Norway company that have been working with us on this project, and they have been explaining to us about the floating farm that they have done on a research basis and how efficient it is working. I hope in the future we will be able to do all this. But as you rightly mentioned, yes, we have an exclusive economic zone that can be tapped, but also at the same time we have just completed a marine spatial planning where we know which part of the ocean can be used for which purpose. Energy is one part of developing the blue economy, but we also have conservation, turtle monitoring, reef restoration, and other aspects, other adaptation measures to address. So we do it step by step on a slow, progressive way. Then just because the technology is available, let's take it and try it. That doesn't happen in Seychelles. On your second question, currently, as I told you, we are very small and we have a monopoly of utility. Public Utility Corporation is the only utility in Seychelles, and we do not have private sector. We have our Energy Act has just allowed generation from renewable sources of power. So the PUC, in order to make sure that grid stability is not affected, or not allowing people who are on grid to have a battery backup at their place. So this is a net metering system where we are the PV system is connected on grid. So it balances by what is generated to what is consumed. So there was no need for technologies like phase change materials to explore it in Seychelles, but we never know, in the future it might come. I hope I have answered your questions.
Yes, madam. Yes, thank you.
Any of your colleagues on line, Tinku?
I have my professor online.
Oh my God, I would like to talk to him.
Sir, please.
Yeah. What's his name?
Dr. Vijay Raj.
Sir, please, can you turn on
from
your
India
University? Can you please turn
Degree
on?
of Mechanical Engineering, University College. Okay, wait a minute.
He's speaking.
Yeah.
And I also have another lecturer from my university also.
Connectivity problem.
Is it audible?
Yes, yes, sir.
Okay. Whether my video is available,
Yes.
ma'am?
Perfect.
Okay.
Good, sir.
So it is very enthralling lecture given by Cynthia. I am very happy to hear from her. And some of our faculties are also online, by like Dr. Balaji and Yagnanarayan Purushothaman are all online. And it is a very good surprise to hear from Cynthia And he also given a lecture to our students also last year. And he grow leaps and bounds, doing his human service to her country, the Seychelles. Thank you, madam, and thank you, Cynthia, for this opportunity.
Thank you, sir.
Sir.
Thank you so much
Thank
for
you, sir.
coming and blessing her.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So nice, Cynthia, to have your professors coming and appreciating.
I'm so glad.
Yeah, I'm also very glad that is what is required, you know, like, and you did a great job. There's no doubt about your presentation was wonderful and very, very, very clear. Even the slides were very good, and the explanation was very spontaneous and very, very clear. And the participants enjoyed, and everybody was feeling the energy from you more than the energy saving and other messages what you told. The actual energy of your presentation was well received. I should really appreciate. And can I request
Thank
all
you,
of you
Kam.
to turn on your video for a
Photo session.
yeah, we will have a photo session, and I have turned off 2 videos. If you could mention whose video, I'll turn it on.
Madam Pradeep Kumar, you are disabled my video, I think.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I'm just searching for
Hello.
your name only. I'm searching.
Yeah, Pradeep Kumar.
Yes, yes. I'm just trying to. Gopi, can you just check? I'm not able to locate Pradeep Kumar. Ah, yes, yes. I could. Yeah.
Yeah.
And one more video, I think I disabled. Can anyone tell me like whose video? There is a raise hand from Karthikeyan T. Is there anything you would like to talk to, Cynthia? Does anyone have difficulty in turning on your video? I request all of you to please turn on your video so that we can have a group photo.
But I also see a question on the chat from Mr. Rajini Kant.
Okay.
Nice name, sir. Wireless electric power transmission is possible without bulky cables to save nature as well as birds, ma'am. Not that I am aware of, but we have Seychelles, as I said, is a group of islands, and there are 3 main islands called Mahe, Prala, and Ladik. Mahe have its own electricity power plant, while Prala has one also. But Prala and Ladik are 7 kilometers apart, and they are connected by undersea cable. So wireless electric power transmission, I have never heard of it. Maybe it is something we have to discover from now on. But when we put it undersea cable, definitely it doesn't affect much of its environment, but we don't know. We have to make sure the safety aspects of it and standards of it before we move on to such technologies.
So can we have a snap? Can you all smile for a second? Cynthia, smile please. Thank you so much. Thank you, Cynthia, and have a nice weekend and enjoy.
Thank you very much.
A lot of energy. We are very happy with your session and all our participants too. They have all expressed that they're very happy. And
I'm glad.
Our final session tomorrow with Subbu. And so with that, we will be concluding our second international webinar. So thank you so much, all the participants, for trusting on Seek to give you some useful, knowledgeable learning sessions through this webinars. Thank you so much, and see you all tomorrow. Bye.
Thank you very much, everyone. Bye, Eka.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone.